We are Groot.
Hello again, YouTube! This is Dr.Kendo. I'm here with an amazing Scribblenauts Unlimited creation for the Object Editor commentaries I play on the Wii U, of course. Basically, if you're new to this series, you can request objects, but only do it on this episode, and I will basically pick whichever ones in your comments have the most +1s, upvotes, thumbs ups, whatever you want to call that, comments, basically interactions, whichever vote is the most popular, that's the one that will be created next week. So that's actually why we have today's awesome request, which is the Guardians of the Galaxy, in recognition for their new movie that has just come out recently on like August 1st or something like that. We started off with a red coat put on the head of an enemy, took Nathan Hernandez's arms, painted everything the appropriate colors, and we've done all this because I'm gonna start off, of course, with Star-Lord, or Peter Quill, whom many would say, of course, is like the leader of the Guardians team. And it was a great movie. I wasn't sure if I was ever gonna be able to see it in theaters. You know, I couldn't find anybody who wanted to go and see it with me, and so I finally got my dad to do it. I saw the new James Brown movie, Get On Up, with him, and I liked it, so don't get me wrong, but then he felt like he kind of owed me a movie as well, so he went and saw this with me, and I think he liked it. You know, I don't think that it was just like awful for him or anything like that, but he's not too into this stuff. He still got out of it, I think, something good though. So these designs are basically gonna be slightly based off of their movie designs, but maybe somewhat of hybrids to kind of how they've appeared in comics or toys or whatever in the past. And so I've seen Star-Lord or Peter Quill holding on this gun. You know, it kind of has two sections to it, so I've just taken a scope and basically doubled that. Put a little scope on the bottom and a main big-sized scope for the top. That's a boxing glove right there, and we have a motorcycle glove on the other arm. It's because Star-Lord's gloves are actually this kind of orangish yellow color with black fingertips, and unfortunately that motorcycle glove can only appear like how it does right there for that back arm. So I basically said, the workaround will have to be that we put the boxing glove on this side and make it look like he's grabbing onto something so we can't really see the black fingertips. But yes, something about my series is that I always try to read background information and fun facts on whoever we're creating, so I'm gonna try to do it today for all of the characters on the Guardians of the Galaxy team. We'll mostly be sticking to fun facts and background as it relates to the recent Guardians of the Galaxy movie, which does have a few discrepancies and differences from the real characters here that we're creating. I should also say, I don't really know if I'm gonna be giving away spoilers and things from the movie, so please be aware that I'm gonna be talking about it, mostly with regards to the main cast. But yes, please be aware, I could say some spoilers. But anyway, Peter Quill goes by the alias Star-Lord, as I've said, and he is the son of a human mother and an alien father, or some other kind of being father. He actually became the leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy team as late as 2008 in the relaunch of the comic book by the same name. He's played by Chris Pratt in the new film, where Chris Pratt is probably most recognizable from being on Parks and Rec, Moneyball, and he's hugely famous for voicing Emmett in the Lego movie, among other credits. I thought he portrayed Star-Lord very well, and I love the character's obsession with the 80s, but more so the awesome mixed cassette tape that he was so protective of, and that's actually why I'm scripting him in our creation here to basically use and protect audio and audio accessories and whatever other categories I can fit in here to hopefully have him use and protect a cassette tape and headphones if I put them down in the game. Last fun fact may be mainstream at this point, but his ship in the film is actually called the Milano, and it's named after Alyssa Milano, whom you'd be hard-pressed to not know about her in the late 80s, but really even more recently than that, I would think. So yes, it looks like we've got our Star-Lord, Peter Quill, ready to be put out on the map. So let's check him out. That's looking pretty good, but let's see, of course, if the scripting is gonna work out here. And it's actually not. I'm gonna have to go in and probably look at this. I dropped down a cassette tape, and I was hoping that he would just basically pick it up and show the little use icon, you know, that goes above their head when they use something. So what I'm gonna do is actually just try to make the category more broad and do entertainment and audio accessories as two different scripts. You know, I had them all in one thing, and yeah, okay, well, that worked. So I was gonna say I had them all in basically one thing, you know, so it was like he uses audio accessories, entertainment, audio, blah, 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 and like they all, you know, were in one script. So I actually just made it two separate scripts, and it looks like it worked out. And I also used the word entertainment, which was a lot more broad, I think. So that means he'll probably be grabbing other things as well. But hey, that worked for our needs. We're gonna go ahead and use a bodybuilder as the source object for the next Guardians character. This would be Drax the Destroyer. He was a pretty cool character in the movie. We've of course removed the legs, kept the arms though of the bodybuilder, and used one of these patterns. Drax, by design, he has all these like reddish patterns on his skin, they're almost like tattoos or something. He's got all these red shapes and stuff on his arms and on his chest and on his head and basically anywhere where he shows skin. So I just used a Scribblenauts Unlimited pattern library shape right there that should reflect it and tried to get a good skin tone here. Of course, fun facts for Drax and background information. Drax steals my fantasy superhero title of the Destroyer, with his full name being Drax the Destroyer. And in the film, we see him starting off as a vengeful and enraged being to later showing a whole gamut of other emotions. I love how he kind of took everything literally in the film, like when he said something like, "Nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast," or whatever he says exactly. In lore, his true name was actually Arthur Douglas, but when Thanos attacked and killed his family, his spirit was placed into the more capable and destructive body of Drax the Destroyer. Former WWE wrestler and MMA champ Dave Bautista plays Drax in the movie, and we find out that his wife and daughter were actually killed by one of the main villains, Ronan. Drax initially sticks around the Guardians team because he wants revenge on Ronan, and he knows that Gamora had worked with Ronan, so he hopes that by sticking around Gamora and the group, Ronan would surely come to her, and he'd be able to have his long sought-after revenge. A move which we later find causes Ronan to get exactly what kind of power he is looking for, and after almost ending Drax's life, Ronan then flies off. After another character, Groot, then saves Drax's life, he knows that he's never had friends like this before, and he wants to team up with the rest of the group to form the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, one thing is that in the movie, it's like he's shot under kind of various lighting, and sometimes his skin looks a little bit bluish, but then sometimes it's also a little bit greenish. And so, like, back in the comic books and things, he actually had much greener skin and whatnot. But in this creation, I'm going to try to reflect that a little bit more from the movie, where it's just kind of a darker shade, almost like a grayish blue, grayish green, kind of shade. So I just sort of went in the middle of all of that and gave him the shade that we see right here. I also have him scripted, of course, to want to take down leaders and villains and things. So basically the idea was that, he would get enraged. Of course, he gets that adjective and then loses it after a certain number of frames go by. But, he gets enraged when he sees villains or bosses such as Ronan. So we're going to go ahead and start off with a female magician's assistant as the next source object. Of course, this is a female character. Who's the only female member of the team for Guardians of the Galaxy? That would be Gamora. We're actually using a scientist, the female scientist, for the legs right here. Gamora's always got these big, high boots on, just like Drax did, but Gamora's are, of course, these sexy lady type of boots. And that's hard to find Scribblenauts characters that really kind of embody that, but I thought that the female scientist, her legs have that heel right there, so that's kind of the reason I chose that design right there. Emma Gross is a Fifth Cell Warner Brothers developer person, and so we're using her head, and we're actually going to add some hair that is red towards the bottom of the hair locks. Because Gamora, you'll actually see in her design, she has streaks of red down at the bottom of her hair. It's almost like a bright red kind of blending in. I guess that'll work out right there. So we'll read her fun facts. Gamora is the adopted daughter of Thanos and is the last of her species. She has great strength and agility, as evidenced in the film through her numerous fight scenes. Zoe Saldana plays Gamora in the movie, and you may know her from several films, a few examples being the modern Star Trek movies and her motion-captured work in the movie Avatar, and yes, there are others as well. Gamora initially uses the Guardians team to push her own agenda of selling the powerful orb and to escape the prison that they find themselves in, but later she accepts that she has lived among enemies for years, so it would be better to die among friends. Friends like the Guardians. And it's certainly true with her painful past. I mean, she has lived among fiendish foes. Thanos killed her family and tortured her, also molding her into an assassin, and she infiltrates her way into Ronan's team so much so that she makes it seem like she's their ally when she really has intentions to rebel. Of course, I've edited her scripting here in these creations so that she protects anything round, as that's supposed to symbolize the orb from the movie. Now, this is interesting, we added a holster down there because this Gamora I felt like just is not, it doesn't have a lot to it, so I thought maybe since it's kind of a more simple design, we'll actually create another Gamora. She has some outfit changes just like most of the other characters, but I wanted to kind of show her in her reddish outfit. Red seems to be a big color in the Guardians movie, and so I noticed that a lot of the team had on red at various parts of the movie. But yes, I've used Anne and I've used Heroine for the arms. Anne was the legs and Rosemary Caird is the head. And we're of course going to put the holster on this one as well. And I used comb over for the little red hairs at the bottom this time. And I think that actually looks a little bit better than using hair. Hair just sort of looks like spiky points. And the comb over actually looks more like it blends in naturally with the rest of the character's hair. So I do like how that looks better. So this is one that I'm really excited for. I'm sure lots of people are wondering, how am I going to do it in Scribblenauts? We're going to start off with a mecha as the source object. We're going to be creating Groot. I love this guy. Groot is amazing. So I knew just straight from watching the movie, and I even went and saw the movie earlier than I had originally intended to. You know, I was saying that I couldn't get anyone to go with me and stuff, but I went and made it a point to go see it really fast because I saw that the popular pick and voted upon item for this week was Guardians of the Galaxy. So I said, I have to see this movie before I create the creations. I'm not just going to rely on images only. But yes, I knew while I was watching the movie, I was like, oh my god, Scribblenauts has a perfect thing. It's the treant. So I've just used various parts of the treant, the arms, the legs, and all of that after removing the head and arms and legs from the mecha, but just keeping the mecha's body. We took the treant's body and made that basically be the head for Groot, but then I also just took head. If you just type in head, it gives you a little human-shaped head. And so I put that right there, and pieces of a crane's neck for the mouth. Crane the bird. I'm really happy with how that looks here in Scribblenauts, and I also used the pattern library to find kind of a wooden-looking pattern for the wood texture of his body. But yes, Groot was certainly an amazing character, and my second favorite in the Guardians film, but he originally appeared as an invader who wanted to capture humans for experimentation. This was back in 1960 in an American comic book series called Tales to Astonish. He can absorb wood as food, also having the ability to rebuild himself and enhance his strength. He can control trees, using them to attack others, and he also seems to be resistant to fire, which I will reflect in my scripting here. And Groot has even seemingly been killed on 3 occasions, I believe, but with each time regrowing from a sprig, something else we kinda saw in the movie. And in the movie, Groot was voiced and even mocapped by Vin Diesel, whom you might know from the Riddick trilogy and The Fast and the Furious, or even providing his voice to the Iron Giant back in 1999, among other credits. I'm a voice actor myself, and I thought he was fantastic, and he's got such a monstrously deep voice, which is his real voice, and it was so very fitting for a large treant-like character like Groot. He only says the words, "I am Groot," aside from some screams and grunts. Oh, and of course, one of the saddest parts of the movie for me when he said, "We are Groot," rather than "I am Groot," as he's cocooning the Guardians team to save them towards the end. Fortunately, my boy Rocket grabs a twig piece of Groot and replants him, so we know that he returns, in essence, and we even see him dancing along to the awesome mix music. So I've done a lot with his scripting here. It's basically going to be that whenever he starts being ridden, we'll have him create a stick and also spawn I think I'll do a leaf. And I'm also going to have it be that when he sees children, he creates a flower. You know, there is that one scene in the movie where he creates this flower for a little girl who's kind of looking at him, staring at him. And I thought it was really sweet. You know, Groot is he's such an evolved character and stuff. Like, he can do these menacing things and just has such might and power. You know, he's slamming these bad guys. He like impales them all through the heart and just starts slamming them against the wall as he's screaming deeply and has all this rage and stuff. But then he looks back at us / his teammates and he just kind of smiles. So it's like he's always kind of happy. And I really like that about Groot. I really like that he's not only that, but he also cares about animals and nature. You know, he's in this part where there's some mistreatment of these lizard beings and stuff, and he really doesn't like it. He doesn't approve. And so I did actually have that in the scripting here. He will cater to animals. You know, I want to do some scripting with him and Rocket Raccoon. Now, the one thing about this Groot creation is that I must admit, I do this a lot with my creations, is they sink into the ground a lot, and that has to do with replacing the legs. You know, whenever you're taking away legs from a source object and then putting on new ones, it's quite hard to get them to where they wouldn't sink into the ground like this. But Groot is doing it majorly because the mecha, you know, I just really shrunk down the pieces of the mecha's feet and legs and stuff, and so it really came out kind of undesirable for that part, but everything else about my Groot creation I really love. So now let's go on to my boy, my favorite character from the movie. He's amazing. We're gonna start off with a Space Marine as the source for Rocket Raccoon. This guy is incredible, dude. I mean, he's just a rough and tumble techie-like raccoon, genetically modified, crazy creature, and so we are gonna go with the obvious and just use a raccoon as the head. Now, this raccoon that comes from the game is probably like most people think raccoons are, and he's kind of black colored. It's not that raccoons aren't black, but pretty much most of the raccoons that I see in the world are this brownish color. It's like a brownish gray. And so we'll definitely reflect that just like the Rocket was in the movie. And so you can actually use whiskers here, and whiskers is another synonym for eyelash. You know, if you're ever trying to follow some of my creations in the past and I said, hey, you need to use the eyelash stamp, but then it just gives you an eye. Well, the reason is actually because there is some kind of error whenever you type in eyelash. Warner Brothers, Fifth Cell, they haven't really fixed it. So to get past that error, you can actually just use whisker. But we're going to use the treant, actually, going back to Groot's roots. That's funny. But yes, going back to the Groot, you know, what we did with that, we're actually going to use the arm pieces of the treant and make those the arms for Rocket Raccoon, as well as some of the leg pieces. You know, we're just going to dramatically shrink them, of course, so it won't look a thing like Groot or even a thing like the treant, you know? So this is going to be a really nice touch, I think. I really like how that looks. I'm going to give him a dot for the eye as well and just paint it black, and also give it a little shiny white dot, the tiny white twinkle in his eye. Kind of gives some nice detail when the eye is just black and that's it. So of course the tail is 2 pieces of the raccoon tail and then 2 comb overs to kind of give that fuzzy end part of the tail. He does have a big tail, so I wanted to be sure to include that. But now for the last fun fact reading. Yes, partially inspired by the Beatles song called Rocky Raccoon. I've got to say, my favorite character in the movie, and probably in my top 5 superhero favorites of all time, is Rocket Raccoon. In Guardians lore, the team is actually rocked and shaken apart when Peter Quill is sent into the negative zone, but Rocket really steps in as the leader of the team then, and he keeps the team alive. In the film, they sort of touch on his background, which is mostly in line with the Marvel lore, but Rocket's basically from an abandoned colony for the mentally ill, where animal companions were genetically modified and enhanced, and in the movie he's even known to have cybernetic implants in his body. Rocket does what he does best, and that's not only being a pilot, but also being a tactician and overall kinda techie guy. Raccoon. And he actually says in the movie he doesn't even know what a raccoon is, so it's kind of funny. But he's voiced by Bradley Cooper in the new movie. You probably know Bradley from Wedding Crashers, American Hustle, and lots of other movies. I like Bradley Cooper, but I seriously thought he was going to offer nothing to the voice and role of Rocket Raccoon. I'm happy to say, though, that he did a wonderful job, giving him that gruff and tough guy attitude and swagger in his voice. Rocket actually has had a British accent in several appearances prior to this movie, such as Marvel vs. Capcom 3, where he's playable, and also in the Avengers cartoon. I had no idea how it'd be in the movie with them ditching the Cockney accent and going for more of a big city kind of voice. But really, if you haven't seen the movie yet, I hope I didn't spoil too much for you here, but it's pretty amazing and Rocket is just incredible. I'm gonna edit our creation here to make it so that he will ride on top of trees, or maybe it'll be mythical. Either way, he'll get on top of Groot's head if he sees him. And I also have a script where if he sees an electronic piece, he'll create a small bazooka out of it to indicate his techiness, you know? And the way to do that is basically just have it to where, you know, when this object sees an object and then filter that as electronic, then it will do destroy an object, which is to destroy the electronic, and then create an object, which would be small bazooka. So hopefully that, you know, I hope I didn't lose anybody there. But yes, I think we are all set up. We're gonna go ahead and have to put him on the map here. I just want to make sure that he is small enough. Right now he's about the size, the height of Maxwell. Maybe I can just make a few minor adjustments and things, make his size correct, and we'll get him out on the field here. So here he is. That looks pretty epic. I also, of course, have it so where he'll use weapons. So, you know, if I place down a gun, it looks like that's correct. He used the gun. So I like that. And hey, what do you know? There was the electronic script. It looks like he created the bazooka and everything. That was, that worked exactly how I thought, you know? Now, I have it only happen once. If I didn't turn off the repeatable filter, he would just keep on creating a bazooka over and over and over and over and over again. And it would keep destroying it, but then it would keep creating it, I think. So basically, I just have it so that he can do it once, so you will need to respawn your Rocket Raccoon if you want him to do it another time. Looks like because he has the Space Marine as the source object, he'll occasionally do push-ups like that. Looks like that's one thing that you gotta look out for. So let's actually go ahead and spawn him again, and we can kind of show you just exactly what that looks like once more in case it went by too fast. We put the electronic down, and then it creates the small bazooka right next to him, so that's how it works. We're gonna now take our Groot over here, and yes, the scripting works, and he even picks up the stick that Groot spawns. You know, when Groot starts getting ridden, you know, he gets the stick and the leaf and everything. And look, I have it even that Rocket can be worn on the back like a backpack, although it looks kind of goofy like that. But hey, I mean, if you want Rocket to be backwards like that or whatever, he can basically sit on the back is what I'm implying. It didn't look exactly what I meant for it to look like, but the head did. That's like exactly what I imagined that to look like. And it's funny because he grabs the stick, because I guess that's classified and can be classified as a weapon in this game. So Rocket went and grabbed that twig, which was hilarious. So yes, leave your comments here over the next 3 or 4 days. I'll pick an object out of whichever ones are suggested below. And I do have ways to tell if people are using multiple accounts, which did just happen last week, but it was basically one guy using multiple accounts to suggest the same object over and over again. And I do have ways to tell. It'll be true, unique suggestions that count over the next 4 days. And then I will edit the information of the video and make it so that no one can comment on it until the next episode is uploaded, in which case the cycle will repeat itself. Remember, don't request YouTubers and just do things one at a time, not like 10 characters all at once. I love you all, so I will catch you on the next vid. And of course,
Thanks for viewing.
and thanks for grooting. Yeah, that was stupid.
Hold up, twists and turns, always anxious to see what's within. We can look ahead to the point of no return.